What is going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today I want to talk to you on SoFi. I want to go over some of the current data points, break it down on what really influenced it today, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up and subscribe. Always greatly appreciate that. And with that said, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 3.17%. After hours is continuing to go down another 1%, but that is based off of very little volume. And even throughout the trading day though, there was about 41.6 million shares being traded. 60 is the average. And there was a lot more, I guess, influenced by bigger institutions, not necessarily just algorithmic trading. And I guess all in all, SoFi didn't do all that bad. So down 3.17%, because as I've been saying on SoFi's technicals, it has been very heated. So the first sign of weakness, which of course did come from GDP numbers this morning, it was somewhat justified. And even when I did my pre-market video, SoFi was kind of holding up. So I found that very abnormal. And I did point that out, saying that things are actually like holding up for whatever reason. So maybe the market somehow did anticipate that, but with PCE coming out tomorrow, like clearly there's just a lot of volatility and that was expected. So Monday and Tuesday was more so technicals. And so for tomorrow going forward is just going to be based on the data, or I guess starting today in the data. So today though, there was no news from SoFi, no SEC filings. Yesterday after hours, they did submit that 10K. I'm still going through that. I'm about halfway done. And my point when I'm looking through these 10Ks, it's actually to find red flags, because you want to try and find the red flags, stuff that they are essentially trying to hide. I know that's a backwards way of doing it, but that's just how I do it, because I always like to look at the good, the bad, and the ugly. And especially based on their recent earnings call, they kind of they talk about the good things, right? So we saw the good aspects. Typically a company, if they are going to have negatives, they do hide it within the kind of notes of the component in the 10K. So this is why it does take a little bit of time. There's about 230 pages in here. So let me know your thoughts on that. And plus, if you did read through the 10K already, what was your tentative viewpoint on that? And short interest did update. So as I pointed out in the past, there's 2 times per month. That is when NASDAQ does give the true numbers. It's still delayed, but it is true numbers. So yesterday they did disclose that there was 158.28 million shares, and that was as of February the 15th. So what a lot of platforms such as Ortex does is they take that number, so 158 million, and adjust obviously up to current date. So this is why on February the 15th, there was 17.36% of the free float being shorted, and as of right now, it is 17.33. So minor difference, but over the last little bit, shorts have been increasing, so that is something to take note of. And even today, they did increase 239.58 thousand shares, which works out to be 158 million shares overall are being shorted. Cost to borrow average is 0.98%, so that has kind of been maintaining itself in comparison to the last several days. And as of through Interactive Brokers, it still does indicate more than 10 million shares is available to be shorted. Even looking on the intraday of what shorts did, they kind of waited until just about right here, and this is where they started to double down. So a lot of this was attributed to shorts increasing their position. And even more so, looking at options, today there was $7.48 million in calls being purchased versus 1.65 million in puts. Sentiment wise, 53% of all the options being done today were optimistic. But as I pointed out in the past, sometimes when shorts increase, this number isn't always the most accurate, only because shorts typically do hedge with call options. And sometimes that could be seen as a positive sign, because shorts would be hedging with call options if they felt that there is some reason that SoFi could go up. And so once again, that is why they are essentially hedging. Of the call options that are being purchased, you can see there's a consensus around 950 for it closing at the end of this week. So still a lot of optimism. And looking at puts though, it looks like it's anticipated to be sub 850. And of the open interest for the call options, like I said, I think I might have spoken a little bit too early, but I believe it was yesterday or the day before, I said that there was a ton of options at that $9 strike price. And at that time, SoFi was, I believe, at $9.13 or $9.20, somewhere around there. So I did say that in theory, market makers might want to close out and push it below 9 in theory. But if GDP numbers were positive, then it was going to be free to run up. But unfortunately, GDP numbers didn't really come in line with the forecast. So the forecast, it was actually a minor change or kind of minor miss essentially. So forecast was 3.3 and it came in at 3.2. But clearly, as the market has ran up quite considerably over the last little bit, any sign of weakness, even though it was very minor, definitely the market was going to take that out of proportion. And especially tomorrow with PCE numbers, that could really cause the market to be disrupted, potentially, of course. But when it comes down to it, looking on the Elliott Wave technicals, $9.21 was a very strong pivot for that as well. And SoFi definitely did struggle with that. So for as long as SoFi is below this 921, it is anticipated to be roughly around the $6 range. And that does stem from just the overbought status. So today's sell-off and maybe even extending into tomorrow, that might be a positive sign just to reset some of the technicals. Again, that's just my viewpoint on that, not a financial advisor. You guys definitely know that by now. But with right now it closing at $8.86, on the 1 minute chart, it got completely slaughtered. So it was able to kind of hold this a little bit. So this S1, so 883 is going to be that next strong support. And it conveniently did bounce off of that. And then vice versa, 901. So dependent on PCE, it could just be all over the place. So most likely between this S3 to this R2 as far as extremes going into tomorrow. So if PCE is positive, then you could see maybe around the 930. Vice versa, if it is bad, then maybe 850. So we'll just have to wait and see as far as that. On the actual chart, looking at the 1 year, just to zoom in. So like I said yesterday, a stock that is outside the boiling band, 9 times out of 10, it does retrace in, and still very much healthy for the long-term aspect of the stock. And in theory, it might actually help with the stochastic being considered overbought. But with today's sell-off and maybe once again extending into tomorrow, that is going to reset stochastic, bring that down to probably around the 60 range. Despite that though, you still see a nice deviation. So white line above the red showing a underlying bullish sentiment for SoFi. Still higher percentile of the boiling band, still above that 50-day moving average. Number of retail investors were getting out. So I know I do talk kind of fast, but all in all, SoFi's technicals are looking a little bit overdone. So with some data that's coming out tomorrow, you might see a retrace back. And looking at the options, I think it's just being artificially bullish because of shorts. And by shorts increasing today, they do validate today's sell-off. So it's kind of funny how stocks work. Over the last couple of days, things were very bullish, and just like that, things turned bearish. So this is where you could see some consolidation. But then again, if you believe in SoFi bigger picture, take advantage of these prices, because I do feel realistically long term, this could easily get back to the double digits. But then again, like I said, you guys do your own due diligence at the end of the day. With all that said, I appreciate all of you watching. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and give yourself a shout out. Did you buy today? Did you sell? Did you start doing weekly options like myself? When it comes to SoFi, I actually didn't do any weekly options on SoFi. I just kind of hit Rivian. I did Lucid and SoundHound. SoundHound does have their earnings coming out tomorrow, so that one could be a very volatile one. But those are the only weekly options I did for this round. So let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.